Mr. Jayant D. Patil is a member of the Executive Committee and advisor to CEO and MD at L&T. He now joins in live. Thank you so much for taking time out and being with us. So, Mr. Patil, this is a massive order in the bag for L&T. Take us through what exactly this means for L&T Defence, and if you could just walk us through more details on the 2,500 odd crore rupee order.
Avan, thank you so much for this compliments. I must say that the entire bridging sector for Indian Army is something which is indigenous. Larsen Toubro, along with Defense Research, has designed and built 6 different products. 5 of them, rather fifth is the one which we are talking is the modular bridge. 4 of them already have been produced, delivered in large numbers. Now, this is the 5th of our order in the bridging segment and among the largest till date. And of course, one remains, which is in pipeline for a product that's already ready. Now, this is a very interesting bridging system capable of virtually taking any payload, which is like a truck or a tank or something up to 70 tons, and can be built, put in place wherever there's a need within a couple of hours. So it's a very, very high speed engagement. You go to get into a place wherever the armed forces want to cross, establish a bridge, cross over, collect your bridging system, and move ahead. Highly automated, very, very potent weapon system. And I must say, very substantially inexpensive as compared to what a world would sell this class of weapon system to India. I'm aware this kind of product used to exist, but not exactly of these kind of specifications, and it used to be far, far more expensive. So this is where our rupee that the government spends goes longer the moment there's a full-fledged Atmanirbhar solutions.
Okay. One is getting the order, second is executing in, and third is executing along with strong cash flows. So when will this order get executed? Because I won't use the word challenge, but the timeline for any defense order is that it's a multi-year order.
You're right, Nikunj. Typically, these kind of orders last for about 4 financial years because it's typical of 3.5 years of time frame in which you deliver it. But the fact remains that in Ministry of Defense, the day you know you have won the contract and the day the contract gets signed, there's a substantial difference. You close out the negotiations long back. There are processes by which it takes some amount of time. So preparation begins and you gain at least about 6 to 9 months before you physically sign a contract. So you're already on in terms of execution cycle. And that's exactly where one tries to finish. The previous multiple orders of Larsen Toubro, I can say that there's no serial production order L&T ever delivered beyond schedule. So it's always has gone ahead of schedule. And I don't think modular bridge should be any exception. We would certainly be delivered substantially ahead of schedule. The last bridging equipment we delivered 1 year ahead. The 110 to be built at that point in time, the 110 were delivered 1 year before.
Right. So, Mr. Patil, tell us, with all these orders that you just talked about, the order book currently stands at about 14,000 crore rupees, if I'm correct with that. Will the contribution rise from the 3.8% currently? I know you can't give me exact numbers.
It certainly is on the rise. Avan had done a video, a long interview of mine, and I had said at that point in time, and I repeat, next 2.5 years should see us at least doubling our order book on defense.
Budget this year, the allocation to defense was not increased exponentially, unlike what all of us thought. So if I look at the total aggregate spend towards the defense, it's coming down. Could that impact future business for L&T and for everybody?
This year the increase has been just about 10,000 crores. But if I look at that, this is virtually, I would say, just about half an year. Before few months before any general election, we know that the serious decision making goes on a back burner. Given that this 10,000 crore of an addition, especially on the backdrop that the global players are not delivering on time, so their cash flows are getting deferred. In this scenario, there should be a higher allocation out of this extra 10,000 crores which is coming to the industry now. So my belief is this is not great, but it is not bad. It's quite good, given that a lot of this money will now end up in the private sector. The second aspect is the more and more gets into Indian industry, including private sector, we actually have a chance to do far, far better because cost in India, especially because of our varieties of ways of doing things. Companies like Larsen Toubro have been very committed to the nation building. And that's essentially where you don't want to make the same kind of money the foreigner wants to make. You deliver it at a reasonable kind of earnings. And of course, give it to the government at a very differentiated kind of a price, a very differentiated level of performance. The product is just not available anywhere else.
Patil, what is the update on the upcoming orders in the pipeline? You were L1 for defense gun orders worth about 6,000 crores, repeat order of Vajra as well that we had discussed previously worth about 5,000 odd crore rupees. What's the status?
Avan must say that they're all in pipeline, and we are hoping and wishing that it gets closed out. I expect some of them will close out before March end itself, and some possibly will spill over. As I mentioned last time, 3 months or 6 months delay is not something which is too odd in Ministry of Defense. The March always can become June, and June can always become September. But that's certainly on the firm path of closing out in terms of negotiations, and we hope we'll be able to do that quite soon.
What I want to understand is what is the export potential, not just for L&T Defence, but the defence sector here in India at large?
In fact, export potential, I must say that India never had an export policy, and we were never exporting till 2014. A sort of, I would say, guidelines. It's not formally called as a policy, but an export guidelines came into existence in 2015, more like 16. And from 16 onwards, we have done about 9 times in terms of what we were exporting then to about 12,000 crores, which last financial year we could export as a whole of industry. Now, as I see, this is a number which will more or less become somewhere close to 2.5 to 3 times in another 3-4 years of time. Now, exports are gaining ground for Indian industry, not just a matter of good to export, but also gives us a sustenance because any order that you receive from our own armed forces does not repeat soon. It's after some amount of time only you can expect a repeat order, and that's a time gap in which you have a great product you can always export. And some serious exports are right now happening, and we do have some extremely good. Earlier days, a lot of India's exports used to be in parts and subsystems. Now we see complete systems getting ordered, warships getting ordered, guns getting ordered, weapon systems are getting ordered. And those are something which will actually start building the, call it order book, call it revenues, both for the Indian industry as such. For Larsen Toubro, it's about 10% of our portfolio in defense. So that's something which we close out on an average every year.
All right, Mr. Patil, really appreciate your time, and you've been very, kind enough to accommodate this interview request. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Nikunj.